And now, let's get this party started. 12 rounds of boxing for the WBA Light Heavyweight Championship of the World. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner. He's wearing gold trimmed with black. In his corner is his trainer, Roy Jones Jr. His professional record, 25 victories, including 10 big wins by knockout. He is the challenger. He's the WBC International Light Heavyweight Champion, Isaac Golden Boy Chilemba. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner with his trainer, Gennady Masyonov. Wearing black with red, his record, a perfect one. 13 fights, 13 victories, including 11 wins by knockout. He is the reigning, defending, undefeated WBA Light Heavyweight Champion of the World, Dmitry Bivol.
All right, gentlemen, we've been over the rules earlier. Most important, protect yourself at all time. Mouthpiece, touch gloves, good luck.
Isaac Chilemba is a good fighter, a world-class fighter, a contender who's scored upsets, not one or two, several upsets throughout his career, who is trying to become one of the elite fighters in the sport. And he may already be there in skill and in talent, if not in resume.
Millions of people in America now hear it every single weekday, and they'll have him on HBO's World Championship Boxing as Chilemba and functional weight advantage coming in for Chilemba. How can he use them?
His size, other than maybe to absorb some of these power.
And Bivol has already landed a left hook and a right cross upstairs, and now a hard. Early on, Chilemba has had a chance to taste Bivol's power, and it has been deadly.
He's in with a guy who is devastating in exchanges, Jim.
Exactly, and you just saw the hard left hook for Bivol in that last exchange, and all cause for Kovalev if ultimately they meet, and you can see it. He's energetic, he's fast, he's moving all the time in the ring.
It's the
Kovalev, or excuse me, Bivol, with the question of whether he's eager to fight Kovalev, the first thing he'll say is, I would, who isn't a Russian. But in this division, you don't have many choices.
You're doing great.
Is the unorthodox, tricky guy, Jim, right, who can destroy your timing. Yet look what Bivol does change. And here the right hand over the top, he disguises it as though he's shooting it to the body. He's a varied offense, and he's able to improvise.
And in the way of firepower to keep Bivol off of him, to in troubled already as round two begins. And Bivol steps in to look for
Bivol's
hard right hand upstairs. Another right hand.
Chilemba look here is he's getting in between Chilemba's numbers. It's his rhythm that's up.
Left hook again for Bivol. That was more of a slap.
Bivol's distance and timing are exquisite.
That left up leads and constantly progresses toward his goal of being the #1 light.
Shows what we're talking about here. Chilemba throws his, and Chilemba's bounces. Bivol comes in and rakes him. Superior timing, rhythm.
Another hard left hook for Bivol.
Powers.
Time!
Countdown to next month's highly anticipated rematch between Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin.
In the first one, I think, and the first one was great.
Entirely different emotional content.
Here's the left hook that Bivol hurt him with. And what that tells you, Jim, is if Bivol lands
rounds here, Chilemba has landed in single digits in both rounds, and his defense. But it is forbidding. You just don't get in many chances.
That's it. Because this is now, he fought Sullivan, but also a really well-schooled, awkward fighter. Balance is really good. Distance. And watch how he takes that little bounce in, and he was first. He's being induced to be first by Bivol, so it's really
a lot of variety in his attack. Another left hook to the body, and he drives.
Carrying the speed and the power of those shots.
Right hand lands upstairs. Left
angles well, and Chilemba's got to feel surrounded at times.
Roy Jones told us yesterday that he felt this fight was as much about the question of how much longer does he have in his career and how.
When you see him as he throw at you, come to that fight.
Here's the fight in microcosm. Bivol punches Chilemba in the face with a combination.
The fourth, let's check in with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman.
Dmitry Bivol.
I mean, even the ones that land are mostly deflected by Bivol's hands. Aren't like
that he's not just a terrific offensive fighter, but also a competent defender, and he lands another. Unlike Kovalev.
we'll see Kovalev in a little while. In tough against Alvarez. I mean, that's a...
Against Dmitry Bivol as Sergey Kovalev smiles. The first one, an extremely controversial decision loss, fierce body assault that prompted referee Tony Weeks to stop the fight. We think we squared away our Harold Letterman audio situation, so let's check back in with Harold for his...
You know, he throws combinations, but most of the damage is with that left jab. Notice he throws it. Anyway, 4-0, Dmitry Bivol.
I agree with Harold that the hook is in a beautiful fight because people love beautiful fights. But Spinks and like Bob Foster and those light heavyweight.
Another left hook for Bivol. Historically, through the years, Max, find a lot of great knockout punchers whose major weapon was really the left.
Hi, Jim. Every actual punch, flush punch that he's landed has occurred in this round. Mix it up with Chilemba.
5 rounds in.
You now have control. Now we can start fighting. You want.
He's trying to cut you. He's trying to...
Trying to give a more positive outlook to Isaac Chilemba. Chilemba's had a good round. That was definitely it.
The job of a trainer who's usually... And that's what Roy was trying his best to do. Stop. Break. But what Roy can do in the corner is to try to paint a rosy...
A great deal. Sometimes when trainers aren't around, Amber will do that in the gym.
Chilemba, because even though it opens him up for exchanges,
The top.
I have a feeling one of those is coming pretty soon, Jake, but
There's a right hand.
it's your chance to win. At least give yourself a chance to win. Right hand usually beats the left hook to the target because it's a straight punch. Shortest distance between two. Wants to make a beautiful fight. I think now has to step up the intensity and reassert his total...
Shooting a feature piece all weekend on the return of boxing to Atlantic City. And then we'll also look...
Make him keep fighting. You fight it from here to the end, either he won't be here or we'll get a victory.
Has landed 53% of his power shots many times over.
Is that if you fight him from here on like that, either you won't be here... And Chilemba... Well... It is curious to me that Bivol is encountering when he's
trying to be perfect. There's a right hand over the top by Bivol. It's to fire the one big knockout shot.
And he doesn't want to make it that actually poses because he's also, it seems to me, to be the better defensive fighter.
Well, and I don't think Chilemba... Energy. It's begun to limit Bivol's offense, and meanwhile there's Elader Alvarez, his professional career after having represented Colombia in the 2000, becoming the mandatory opponent for Adonis Stevenson. Up into the very propitious position of fighting a bigger name, better
against Superman Stevenson.
Stevenson not terribly interested in support.
7-0, 70-63, Dmitry Bivol. Punches are pretty close. You know, in other words, they both landed the same amount of punches, but Dmitry...
On how to stay in here and compete, and Bivol has not been able to find the combination that...
You know, what can Chilemba possibly do? But through his toughness and determination, weathered at least the first storm from Bivol, and now he's fighting...
That Chilemba interrupted Kovalev's long, torrid knockout, keeping him afloat so far against Dmitry Bivol.
Body. But now they're jousting in such a way that it appears that Chilemba's able to keep...
The learning process here tonight for young Bivol.
He did it against Sullivan Barrera. He did it again in the talent.
Bivol had a 12th round knockout against Sullivan Barrera.
He just threw a right hand at you over here that could not have knocked you down. You feel me? You can't let him.
Use your left, use your left, use your jab. Of a scheduled 12. It's unofficial scorecard, still a round-by-round shutout for Bivol, of limiting the opponent to single-digit lands in every round for the...
But he's no longer dictating everything that's happening in there. And
managed to get a little confidence and get his sea legs.
I think
Going to end matters if he had landed it, but it was a glancing blow. For sure, Bivol's in spectacular shape. To be able to bounce and circle this way shows the kind of work he puts in between fights.
See there.
Now in this round, we're back to the more familiar pattern as Bivol has landed 9 out of 10. A quick little left hook and lands a hard right hand. Very good round for Dmitry Bivol. Field, Tyrod Taylor, and Jarvis Landry as the new look Browns attempt.
When he got 3 rounds, he quit. When he bounced around doing all this shit, his arm tied, he don't know how to react.
Hard in Isaac Chilemba's corner.
I think
he'll be joining us for the... I'll tell you what, Roy Jones is a motivator. If he tells me... Pass combination by... Another exchange. Left hook by Bivol. Moment.
Yes.
Right hand over the top.
Yes, just begin the fight.
Coming to the end of round 10. Fight before finally putting him away with a knockout in the 12th.
Although in that fight,
as his left glove was being put in place. Moments we'll go back and take. There's Sergey, the Crusher, back to the scene of Atlantic City where he beat Bernard Hopkins in November of right hand at the very end of his amateur career. And as the man you saw working the pads there, Mark Ramsey, boardwalk in Atlantic City, and the scene of tonight's. So the first major boxing card in Atlantic City in nearly 9 consecutive sellouts here on the boardwalk.
Kathy Duba's middlemen for TV, but really promoted fights and fighters and
she's a promoter, an old school type.
hustling fans of boxing.
And the driving force right now in the heavyweight division as she represents as...
To discuss the action in the ring.
No, he's playing out the string right now.
Playing out the... But look, he, by his own admission, wants to be an elite fighter, wants to be a pound.
Ask Sergey Kovalev.
Well, but Boxe did it.
That was a rare accomplishment.
It was. You can't... But I think that's what we're here for. We have...
Let him have too much, and let him walk around and have way too much.
Bivol's longtime trainer, Gennady Masyanov. Be careful. Don't take too many risks for Bivol. Of limiting the opponent to single digits landed punches in the round.
He beats another elite fighter in the division. Where do you put him on the pound for pound? A little bit more.
And how much of that is because Roy Jones coaxed the bet?
I think that has something to do with it. I think Chilemba's quality of a...
That's one thing about Bivol.
The most impressive thing about Chilemba.
The determination he's shown to go ahead and take whatever beating was going to ensue. That Chilemba has had in life. Why would we have expected to be here? Has been an act of monumental endurance and perseverance for Isaac Chilemba. 87 of 171 power punches, 51%. I'll let him giving all of the last 3 to Chilemba. I could see the 10th and tightens the Letterman scorecard, and we'll have to see what happens when we hear in a top group of Las Vegas or New York, more than doubling Chilemba and landing at more than...
Ladies and gentlemen, here at the Hard Rock Hotel Casino of Atlantic City, we go to the scorecards after 12 rounds. All 3 scores go to the winner by unanimous decision. Still the undefeated WBA Light Heavyweight Champion of the World, Dmitry Bivol.
interesting look on Bivol's face as he heard the score from Judge George Hill, who had it 8 rounds to 4.
You were generous, could have given to Chilemba.